Australian red tape mayhem. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ainslie Insights, brought to you by Ainslie Bullion, Ainslie Crypto, and the Gold and Silver Standard as the Ainslie Group celebrates 50 years. Today, we welcome back Alex to discuss her article from this morning that really left me scratching and shaking my head at some truly ridiculous anecdotes. How are you going today, Alex?
I'm going very well, back from sickness and feeling a little bit better.
It's good to have you back, but I feel like we're heading for a bit of a rant today. So let's get into it. Start me off. Why are we the lamest country on earth?
So we've all heard of Matt Walsh recently with the Am I Racist movie that's come out, where he's pulling apart the crazy wokeness of racism in the world right now in the US for that documentary. And he was the one that came out recently and said, Australia is the weakest, wokest, lamest country on earth. Now, he's continued that rhetoric because we're relaunching the show, what is it, The Boss?
The Office.
The Office, okay.
Yep.
So we're relaunching The Office, and he just has pulled it apart and said we're ruining the show. And it got me to the point where, I've been speaking to a lot of people. I've been reading a lot of things recently on what's been going on in Australia, and I think he's right. I think John Howard, that era of the lucky country of Australia, is over. And the government just keeps adding red tape. Everyone I speak to, doctors, tell me that they're spending more time ticking boxes than they get to see patients. Teachers are dropping out of the workforce faster than anyone else. Businesses are falling apart. There's a whole heap of red tape, and the government's response so far has been, look over there. So we're not dealing with this. In the US right now, Trump is proposing the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOE, which he wants Elon Musk to run, because everyone knows in the world right now red tape is causing a lot of problems. We are just diverting the problems and not blaming the government. The government is not inwardly looking, they're outwardly looking for new taxes or new solutions to their own needs.
And obviously, I mean, we both don't think that taxes, for example, are the solution here. You mentioned in the article a number of specific examples, which was why I was scratching my head. One I wanted to talk about was the impact on innovation and economic growth. You particularly talked about that Gilmore Space Agency's example and that renewable energy sector sort of example there as well. It's not about taxes, it's about innovation, really, that is what drives this forward. Talk to us a little bit about that.
This space agency that I didn't actually know existed is pretty much Australia's only space company. So they're backed by VC, and they're run by a guy called Matt Gilmore, I think his name is. He's on the Gold Coast. He was ready to launch his rocket, and then he got stopped by some red tape and some regulation. Now, some of the questions apparently he was being asked leaves you scratching your head. Like, will the rocket hit a cruise ship? Or will the rocket potentially hit the space station? Now, I would like to compare that to a needle in a haystack. The possibility of a rocket hitting something minute in space is just insane. So they're the sorts of questions he's been answering. And as he put it, my engineers, rather than designing new rockets, are answering regulators, not innovating. So we've just lost the plot in this country.
And you used another example as well. I mean, that is absurd. Obviously, space is a lot larger than Earth, and you throw a dart, you don't expect you're going to hit the White House, for example. Just you can't pick random things and say, "What am I going to hit?" That makes no sense. But you talked about Ozveg, which I thought was also interesting. That report suggesting that sort of you had the number, I think 34% of vegetable farmers ready to leave the industry due to regulation. Kind of a similar play on what you were just discussing. What's going on there? And I mean, that's probably even more concerning. I mean, space, yes, that's a new innovation industry, but when we're talking about food and farmers, that's pretty, basic stuff we need.
Yeah. I mean, agriculture, it's a thing. Australia is quite famous for it. We're hoping that our businesses are succeeding pretty well. But apparently in this report that came out this month, again, 34% of farmers, of veggie growers, are thinking about leaving the industry, citing regulation and issues with the government. The government introduced a new legislation, same job, same pay, which every single company in Australia just went, what the hell is this? Can you imagine all these farmers who have pickers that want to encourage people to come to their town, having to pay the same amount of money for a backpacker that comes in 5 minutes and the guy that's moved to the town to be a picker? It's just insane. So they're citing all of that as an issue. And this was my favourite bit about the article. What was the government's response? I'll leave it with you for a second because it's epic. People should eat more vegetables. So support the farmers, eat more vegetables. Not let's fix these fundamental issues that they have identified as issues. We're going to ask other people to buy more vegetables, which ultimately puts inflation pressure on if everyone wants to buy more vegetables. So it's just crazy. This look over their mentality of this government is insane. The Business Council of Australia had a meeting last week where it was a scathing report from most people in the that were presenting, just saying regulation, red tape, what's going on, and Albanese's response, we're pro-business.
You can say whatever you want, apparently.
It fixes everything. Eat more vegetables, pro-business, we win.
Just eat more vegetables, we're pro-business, everything is good. Do you think along, like, just pushing a little bit further along that line, when you talk about the same pay example, I mean, there's got to be something there in the regulatory aspect of when you raise these bars, arbitrary bars, that surely introduces a lot of competition. If you've got overseas imports that are coming into the country that don't face that, I mean, ultimately that's got to pose major problems to local businesses, surely.
So that was the other example that I used, which probably I got sent this a while ago and I've been meaning to write this article because but I didn't have enough time to research it. So there's this company called Westerflex, which opened in 1974 in Victoria. Great small, medium-sized business. Was innovative, had patents, produced basically products for the air conditioning business. In February this year, they shut down and cited government regulation, but basically saying there's Australian standards. You ask me as an Australian manufacturer to abide by the standards, and yet these fly-by-night importers can import anything from overseas. They're not tested. It's basically, if there's a problem, we'll fix it then. Some of the examples, pink baths, when we had all those fires. Another one when Bunnings in 2014 had all that wiring. 50,000 homes had this wiring, faulty wiring. What was the reaction of this company? It just shut down. It imported the product, then it just shut down and liquidated itself and stiffed all the businesses, the homeowners and Bunnings with the bill. But if Australian standards are not followed, how can you expect manufacturers in Australia to reach such high standards and not police the other side? Now, I'm not suggesting policing is the answer here because clearly we are over-policed and just becoming too woke, too lame, everything that Matt Walsh is saying. But you can't apply pressure to one part of the market and cause it to fail, which is what's going on, and do it unfairly on the other side. And go back to when we started those energy tariffs, even so that was, I think, back around 2008, 2009, the energy trading scheme that they tried to introduce. We didn't apply it to imports. So you'd have Australian manufacturers with energy costs added to them, competing with people overseas that didn't. So you just shift the manufacturing overseas. You don't fix energy. You just ruin an industry. And I have to say, red tape is exactly what they did.
And like, to wrap this up, obviously you make that point that, yeah, we don't want to compromise public safety. We don't want to compromise product quality, but also, and you've been at the forefront of saying this, we're over-regulated in a whole lot of areas as well. So there's obviously a tug of war going on there. We want to reduce the bureaucratic obstacles. We want to find some sort of middle ground. How do you do that? What's your solution to that?
Well, I mean, I don't mind the Department of Government Efficiency, but I'd like to just simplify it a little bit more and just call it stupid police from here on. So basically, if there is a regulation, like I have my builder over yesterday who's complaining about a new regulation, the fall in bathrooms and what you've got to do from now on, and that the Australian standards didn't talk to this one, and the regulation that was first in place is the right one, but people just did it the wrong way. So rather than making sure they do it the right way, they just added another regulation, didn't talk to someone else, and he said it makes no sense now and we don't know what to do. So if I explain that and I'm not in building and I think it is stupid, then I think any stupid police could just come in and say, what the hell are you? And stop it and try and get rid of it. So maybe they just need everyone to write in. I've got another example. New South Wales is the only state in Australia with infinity pool fencing. So if you're on a cliff, you've got an infinity pool and it's 20 metres high, you have to put a fence down here. So down here, 20 metres on the ground, so that a 2-year-old can't climb a cliff to get to the infinity edge pool. Like, stupid police. It's not hard. So anyway, that would be my take on it.
Look, always enjoy these conversations, Alex. Ending on the stupid police. I think that's a really good place to wrap it up here. Lots of interesting insight in there, as always. Thank you for your work on that, and I'm glad you're back with us to get that rant out in public. So thanks for that, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll chat again soon.